What an incredible opportunity this was. I've now not only interviewed Eric Brock, I've also interviewed James Acuna, and what a blessing it's been to have some really insightful conversations with both of these individuals. If you do enjoy these videos, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. All of it helps push these videos and for me to keep creating great content like this. So please enjoy the video. Right then, James, good morning, and thank you very much for taking your time to come and speak to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
No, that's cool. For anyone who's watching who might not know who you are, who is James Acuna?
I hope he's a crazy person. Who is James Acuna? It's an interesting journey. Like I'm calling you from Tallinn, Estonia, like 180 kilometers from the sort of eastern border of the European Union with Russia. So it's a very interesting journey to get here. And basically, I won't bore everybody, but retired from the CIA in 2022. Prior to working for CIA, I had done work with DARPA, with their tactical technology office and some of the other offices. And my background was engineering, helping special operations forces develop new projects, amphibious vehicles, stealth programs, etc. And so when I retired, I kind of put these two disciplines together with a little bit of drones, if you will, because I got my Part 107 U.S. license in 2020. And so I was a drone pilot as well. And so I put these three together to assist Ukraine with facilitating, introduction between the West and Ukraine in the hopes to get some better tech into Ukraine. And that didn't work out so well. So here I am doing something else.
So that was next basically what was on the question. You've had an incredible career from serving in the US government intelligence to founding your own ventures and now working alongside ONDAS. How important were these experiences in shaping you as a leader, and what are the biggest lessons you've taken away from operating at the level of national and global responsibility?
I mean, I can put it in terms of this unmanned ecosystem here, and so what did I learn? And I don't know if that was, I was a firefighter as well. Actually, I was a firefighter on September 11th, 2001. Having these sort of different experiences allows you to kind of go with the punches wherever things will take you. I think in the unmanned space, so you have this huge unmanned space, and if you've ever talked to people that fly drones or have been doing this for any period of time, they're all waiting for that day to come, right? Like the day that drones are going to be all over the sky. They'll be everywhere. They'll be ubiquitous. And they've become this sort of impassioned group of people that are just think drones are going to change the world. But nobody's leading that charge. Who's leading it, right? And anybody that sort of pretends to lead it, it has something to sell you. Buy this. We have a drone. We have a counter UAS system. We have this. And so there's a lack of real leadership within the space. And I've talked to ONDS about this, ONDS Holdings, right, the parent company. And why don't we just lead it, right? And so I don't know where that lesson came from. I mean, I think it's, when you work for the director of operations for CIA, you're in some pretty dangerous places. You're overseas, and when you're out there, let's say meeting secret agents, right? That's what CIA does. You can't check with a bunch of people to see if you're doing the right thing or not. Whatever you do is what you do. You just qualify it later. If your boss asks you, like, why did you make that decision? Why did you do that? And I look at running an investment program dedicated to Ukraine, very similar to that. Like, we're kind of out here on the frontier. What do? We're just going to do stuff. We're going to break stuff, and we're going to see what works. So that's kind of a long answer to your question.
No, that's fine. I like the detail. I always like to get people's view on this, and in most European countries especially, investing and financial planning don't get the emphasis they probably should. How important do you feel it is for people to invest and plan ahead for the future?
Well, I mean, isn't half of the European Union socialists sort of thinking, here in Estonia, they pay let's just put it this way, in relation to other countries, they pay a higher tax, and whether that's social taxes or healthcare tax or whatever that is. And so why do they pay that? So when you turn whatever it is in Estonia now, 67, that you get some money and you get a pension, right? But the pension is what, 450 pounds or 450 euros? It's not very much. And so how do other people have the opportunity to, basically live a better life? And the only way you kind of do that is whether it's you group investments, you do funds, or you individually invest in something yourself. And so, if you can't afford to pay the rent, you can't afford to pay your car, it's hard to have that discussion. But even if you can, and I was kind of a moron because in my 20s I didn't really invest any money. But if you're able to sort of put money aside and then just kind of watch it in 20 years, 30 years, then you're like, wow, I put $20 back 20 years ago, and that $20 is $400 now. I think that's a testament that you should invest. That's all.
Yeah, and I think, like, say, from my own perspective, COVID changed a lot of things for people. Like, a lot of people were at home, spending a lot more time. So me included, started going down that path, and I think it's quite essential, really, that everybody should. But I mean, like you say, everybody's paths are different, but I think it is a big thing to do.
Absolutely, and like during COVID, I learned to trade currency, fiat, right?
Yeah, everything, yeah.
FX, right? Like, and I was horrible at it. I always lost money. But at the same time, like prior to COVID, 2016, I got into cryptocurrency, and I was trading cryptocurrency. Much more lucrative back then, right? I guess it's lucrative again. Much more lucrative than currency exchange trading. So.
Yeah, and I think nowadays, I mean, I won't go too into depth with it, but I think nowadays there's so much opportunities because, like last night, we seen with a single tweet can literally change the market overnight. And I think, like I say, it's same with April. There's just so many opportunities for people nowadays to actually make money, but also get caught up in it to lose money. So
Absolutely.
So a lot of people were excited when you came on board, and you're seen as someone who brings deep expertise and strong leadership. What was it about ONDAS that excited you and made you want to join their journey?
Well, I think I neglected to tell you in sort of my brief bio that there came a time, and I mentioned that I considered some of the consulting between the West and Ukraine as a failure, and part of that failure dealt with venture capital. And so there are a lot of venture capitalists, at least there's a lot of venture capital that's growing towards military technology, deep tech, whatever you want to call it. And venture capitalists love to make them feel better about themselves. And so they're like, yeah, we invest in Ukraine. We invested in this French satellite that one day may fly over Ukraine, and take pictures, and it will help the Ukrainians. And I was like, that's pretty esoteric. That's pretty distant from the actual zero line in Ukraine. And I was like, I hope you don't put this on your prospectus or your slick sheets that you invest in Ukraine. And of course they do. And so what I found was more people talking about how good they feel about themselves for investing in Ukraine, and they're not really doing anything. They're just not. And so I kind of felt like there was a little bit of deception, not only with the venture capitalists themselves, but with the portfolio companies, anybody that's sort of venture backed. They had a mandate to go into Ukraine, but I feel like some of those companies literally ran across the border between Poland and Ukraine, unraveled an American/Ukrainian flag, took a picture, and said, hey, battle tested, there we were in Ukraine. And so really felt like there's a lot of fraud within the system. And in discussions with ONDAS back a few months ago, they were like, what Eric Brock, who's like sort of visionary CEO here, he was like, oh, what do you think? He was just like, he called me for my opinion. And he was like, what do you think? Like if we started a fund, right? This is what, full disclosure, what we have right now is not a fund. We're not a fund manager because we don't have other people's money. We just have ONDAS's money. But he was like, what do you think it would take? I was like, oh, you mean like a VC fund or something? He's like, yeah. And I was like, to be serious, like not laughed out of the room, 25 million. VC fund, which is 3 to 5 years, right? Typical VC fund. And I was like, if you really want to be a power player, like do 50, right? 50 million is like, you can really get a seat at the table, right? And then I lost track of them for a while, like 2.5 weeks. And and Eric came back to me like mid-August, I think it was. And he was like, how's 150 million? I was like, oh, I think you'll get noticed at 150 million. And I was like, great, congratulations. Who's going to run it? And he said, well, you are. And so that's what got into it. But like the seriousness of that amount of money and in the growth phase, right? So what does a VC do? VC wants 100x early in, maybe early out, right? Like they take a lot of risk, but there's not too many investment projects out there that bridge what they call the valley of death, especially for defense related technologies. Okay, we're going to grow you, right? We're going to grow you from say 2 customers, 20 customers. And what does that growth look like? And so that's what ONDAS Capital wants to do. And so I'm all about that, right? Because that's where all these guys fail. And the other thing is I love my Ukrainian friends. They're brilliant. They're so brilliant in technology and science and STEM related stuff. And then they go and try to incorporate a company in the state of Florida because somebody said that's the best way to get into the U.S. market. And I was like, no, that's completely wrong. And, what these companies need is they need advisors. They need someone to help them. And so in addition to providing them capital, is there some way that you can give them resources so they don't fail? And like, if I'm giving you money, it's not an optional thing. It's like, yes, you will take these people and yes, they will help you. And so you're not only giving them money, but you're giving them a roadmap to be successful because you're putting your own people in their companies to help them. And once they get up and running, then you kind of get out of it. But and so I love that approach, and that's why I got into ONDAS.
Yeah, and I think that was what the which pretty much what you just said. That's what people seen, and they call you the key. That's what they call you because you're like the bridge between the two. Which
we'll
totally
see. I mean, we just started about a month ago, so we'll see how this plays out. And it was in Ukraine last week, and they had like I'll call it a donors conference for lack of a better term. And most of the donors that you saw there were states, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, right? They were countries in themselves wanting to establish partnerships with Ukraine, which I think is great, but I would heed some caution to that approach because, be careful what you're wishing for because you just may get it. But is that really the best technology out there? Is that really the way to do it? You still have to do your basic homework and find these companies. I'm always weary of a government that nominates people to work with you. Oh, you should go work with Acme Ukraine or whatever drone company. If you don't know and you don't do your own work, you'll get like a big bloated, unloading some pig on you. And I'm not saying Ukraine's doing that on purpose, but sometimes politicians in financiers, they don't really see the same thing at the same time. One looks good politically, but the other one may be bad financially. So I applaud the efforts. I just don't know how this is going to go.
No, of course. And I think that sort of goes on to this next question, which is a fine fit actually. What's your view on the current UAS and counter UAS market? There's a perception that cost needs to be controlled, yet we're seeing some systems showcased with high-end setups. Do you think there's a balance between being struck between affordability and innovation?
Well, I mean, it's really hard to answer that question because people, what you're kind of referring to is unmanned aerial systems of all types. So what are unmanned aerial systems of all types? They're group 1, group 2, 3, 4 and 5, right, in the US system. So, what is the trade-off between, say, innovation and cost for a group 1, a small unmanned aerial system, SUAS, that has like one mission in life. Let's say it's a one-way attack, which the Americans call one-way OWA, or a kamikaze, same thing. Like, so what is the trade-off between innovation and cost? Like, what is it? Like, Should I spend $12,000 for a one-way attack drone? That seems ridiculous. Do I really need the 600 line infrared camera? Maybe I do if I attack at night. But I think you need to look at what is the mission set you're going after, and then what is the technology I need to fulfill that mission set. And let me be really clear about the mission set. What distinguishes, say, what I do and what my old companies did, which we still have the companies, but what we did is we always looked at the TTPs, the tactics, technologies, and the procedures for like what's going on in Ukraine right now, what's going on in Israel right now, what's going to be there in a month, and what's going to be there in 5 years. And if you're able to predict that, then you can go back and put the technology into those little buckets to be like, oh yeah, you know, drone guns are going to be this thing of the future. And once you can do that, I think it gives you a better entree into what you were talking about. So innovation versus cost. So for example, like not to push any American company in front of the bus here, but like Black Widow, right? I think it's a Teledyne FLIR drone, it's a little tiny drone, right? Goes inside, has some cool camera, costs $75,000. Okay, well, what are you using it for? What's the point of it? Like, is it to blow stuff up? Is it just inside? Is it small unit troops? What is it? And then once you can answer what you need the drone for, I think it becomes self-evident whether you need all that innovation, as my friend called it, the lickies and chewies, you know, the extra bells and whistles, versus I just need a cardboard drone. Like, I don't know. Like, and if you look at some of the innovation coming out of both sides of this war, both the Russians and the Ukrainians, you know, you'll see things like Molnia, which means lightning in Russian language, but it's a cardboard drone. It's cardboard drone.
I think I seen you comment on that the other day, and I seen it. Yeah, I did see you post a video or comment on a video, one on LinkedIn. I seen that.
Yeah, it's a cardboard drone. Does it do what it's supposed to do? Yes. Mm-hmm. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yep. Yeah. No. Of course. The defense industry is moving faster than ever recently. Well, recently anyway, especially with drones, AI, and autonomy. What technologies or trends do you think are being underestimated right now?
You know, generally in defense or in the unmanned space.
So in like AI, autonomy, yeah, anything in that sector, I guess.
I can give you sort of a generic answer to that. I think when people talk about two things, right? I think when people talk about unmanned space, what they're really talking about is unmanned aerial systems. And they shouldn't be. They should be talking about all kinds of unmanned systems. So that is unmanned ground, unmanned surface, autonomous surface, unmanned underwater, UUV. And so if you're a futurist or you're looking at technology that's going to change the world, I would be looking at some of these boats. I would be looking at some of these ground vehicles, and I definitely would be looking at some of these submarines. Those will change the world just as much as the unmanned aerial systems have changed the world. And the other one is there was some signal chat I was in the other day, and somebody did a post or a signal post, I don't know what they call, about your ability to be targeted is inversely proportional to how many connections your device has. So let's think about that for a second, right? You see all these counter UAS solutions out there. And so some of these counter UAS solutions include things like cyber hack, takeover, return to home takeover, you know, these companies like Defend that are able to get in there and sort of mess around with your command link. Well, what happens if you don't have a command link? And so perhaps the future, to your question, is not some real whiz-bang technological innovation that's coming or you need, or AI. Maybe it's the complete opposite of that. Maybe it's simple things like put a roll of fishing line on the back of your drone. Oh, sorry, call it fiber optic, right? Like maybe that's the way you do it. And so what I see, unfortunately, is let's say I have a drone company. Everybody wants to have the entire drone company. They don't want to have a piece of it. They always want the whole thing. So let's say you have Acme Drone Company, right? And you raise 300,000 pounds, right? That's it. And you're like, oh man, we're struggling here. We don't know what to do. Oh, you know, the board of directors comes up with a great idea. It's like, we'll just put AI at the end of it. We'll say Acme Drone Company AI, right? Like, and so and then you get like 8 million investment. But like, does anybody actually stop to say what? So is it really AI? You know, what is the AI being used for, and how does that present itself on the drone system? What kind of CPU power do you need to actually run that AI? But no, they don't care. They just see the word AI and throw money at you. And I'm not sure that, like, we want to make unmanned systems really, really, really sexy, because I guess that's what sells. I guess when you go to trade show and you see the Apache gunship, sorry, Sikorsky, that has like, 18 rails for Hellfire missiles on it, people are like, I want that. Well, why do you want that? Right? So what's the instinct? What's the id? What's the ego part of your brain that says, oh, we want this? Is it the manned aircraft portion? So I think what you see sometimes is unmanned systems designed by manned systems people, pilots, techs, engineers, and they've missed the mark on what an unmanned system should be. And it shouldn't be all these bells and whistles. It should be basic. It should be that Molnia, the Russian system, or the equivalent. Ukrainians have ugly duckling drones as well. Terminal autonomy, AQ-100 is a great example of that. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's just make it effective.
No, I think that's bang on. And what are you currently most curious about in technology or strategy?
Anything that touches the unmanned space. And so I would say right now, the especially in Europe, what's the prevailing concern are, UFO, purportedly Russian drones flying all over, and nobody can do anything about it. And so my interest right now lies in developing effective counter UAS systems that are actually real, and like, it's not a magic trick. And people are like looking to high-powered lasers and high-powered microwave, and they have these really slicky YouTube videos and stuff showing a magic trick, basically. And you asked me this question before, like, what lessons do I take away from working for CIA as an operations officer, right? I was the guy that went and recruited spies. And so I gave this example to NATO the other day, which is, like, I learned in CIA to know if somebody was if you were being followed, right? And so it's surveillance detection, right? So there's a whole process of how you do surveillance detection. But once you got good at surveillance detection, you could feel it, right? You could feel if you were under surveillance or not. It wasn't anything that was the science of it, looking for the same person, time, distance, change of direction, whatever. But you could feel if you were under surveillance. Counter UAS to me is much like feeling if you're under surveillance. You can feel it if the time is right for someone to do an attack on you. And that educational point of view and teaching, the good guys how to feel the current, op tempo related to unmanned systems around whatever they're trying to protect is what is of interest to me right now. And it's not the technology of it, it's the education of it. And so how can I baseline my understanding of counter UAS in a particular area, so that then I can effectively spend money to enhance my situational awareness of counter UAS. But that's not what people do. What they do is they go buy $100 million worth of counter UAS equipment, and then they're like, it'll tell us if we're under attack. I don't have to think about it. It will tell us. So you're not feeling it. You've relied on the systems to tell you, but you got to feel it, right? And so
that's fair.
Anytime we have the opportunity to train people, so I still have my company called Baltic Coast Swing. Anytime we have the opportunity to train people and to get it, to have the light bulb go off, that is really what baselines everything else. And then you can add all these bells and whistles, counter UAS equipment, which only enhances your detection, your classification, your command and control, your effectors, your BDA, right? Like these help you, but there's no escape for just learning the basics.
Makes total sense. We see a lot of networking with companies like, I think I'm going to say this, UAV Tech and Takeover on LinkedIn. What is it like being a part of such an innovating ecosystem and seeing that cooperation across the sector?
Well, I mean, like, so, you can see Techiver, I think Portuguese, British company now. You can see them all over trade shows and they have some very innovative smaller drone systems, right? Group 2, I think this AR3, that are attempting to fill a need in Europe and elsewhere for unmanned systems that aren't Chinese derived. They are Portuguese derived. They're UK derived. They're not China. And they're filling a niche, whether that's in the commercial sector or the military sector, to do that. Now, I don't know. I wasn't there when Techiver was in Ukraine, but I'm hoping that they learned some lessons from being in Ukraine and from being on the zero line in Ukraine. So I hope that. But I'm unable to confirm that. On the other hand, UAV Tech, which is a British company, I met on the front line in Ukraine. And so their CEO, Howard, had raced back from the front line to talk to me about his lessons learned from being on that front line and having spent the better part of 2 years there. And so they were able to then take those lessons, put it into their sub 250 gram drone systems, so that they're not relying on things like GPS. So that they have a affordable infrared camera that doesn't come from China. And so their long range surveillance drones are 50 kilometer to 150 to 300 are less than 10,000 euros a piece. So they learned a lot of lessons out there, and I hope they get a fair shake in the EU and in UK when they go and deploy this stuff. And I think they're doing very well. So I don't have any concern about that. But to answer your question, I see, as a kid would say today, it's a company that understood the assignment, right? They got it, right? So yeah, they did, right? They understood what the assignment was, and they went out there and did it 6 or 7 times, right? Like so.
No, it makes total sense. And like I say, it's good when you see like so many people getting on and stuff. It's good. So definitely.
But there's not so many people. There's fraud out there. There's
yeah,
people
well, yeah. I know. I don't want to say the names, but I see a lot.
I don't either. I don't
either. We've recently seen reports about a potential Ukraine-US drone technology partnership. How significant do you think collaborations like this could be for global defense industries moving forward? What do you think drives that new level of international cooperation?
I'll answer your question with the question. So of course, any move to propagate Ukrainian technology to the West is overdue. We should have done that 3 years ago as they're developing this technology. We should have developed the pipeline, the lessons learned, so that NATO and allied militaries around the world are getting the lessons learned from Ukraine. Are they? Nope. They're not doing that right now. And so how exactly is this going to manifest itself? Is this with the partnerships that are coming out right now? I hope so. I hope this is it, or is it what I was talking about earlier? Is it just here, take this company over here? It's been sitting on the shelf in Ukraine for a couple of years. Here, come over. And so how does that manifest itself? And the other one is the question is, what happens if you don't do it? Right. So, I can't validate these statistics. Somebody the other day said there's 150,000 drone operators on both sides in Ukraine and Russia. So you have this skilled labor force of people that fly drones. What do you think they're going to do with that skill if we don't have a way to bring it to the West? Right. So think narcotics trafficking, think jailbreaks, think criminal activity. Do you think that these people that can't afford to live are going to just sit at home and not live or are they going to go into criminal activity with their awesome drone capabilities? And like, this is not hypothetical. This is already happening. And so let's go look at Mexico. Go look at Colombia.
Yeah.
Look at the counter UAS systems down there. Where do you think they got that knowledge from? So if you do not build a system, re-education university, that sounds horrible, but just something where it's like, let's adopt your lessons learned. Let's create counter UAS test centers that uses your particular skill set. What do you think these people are going to do? So that's my concern.
To be fair, I never really thought about it like that, but that's definitely a way to open-mindedly look at it. How do you personally identify which emerging companies or innovators are worth engaging with in defense tech space, and what is it that speaks out to you? I know you touched a little bit on that, but obviously you've got to have like a keen eye really because like you said, there's a lot of frauds, a lot of things. So how do you distinguish what's a good emerging company, I guess?
So I'm going to give you just to go out, feel it, to touch it, to see it, to interface with it, to talk to lots of people, to be on the ground, have a huge network of your little, human sources that tell you stuff, not spying, just people that you go talk to, and talking to the right people that don't have an axe to grind or a drone to sell you about potential companies. But I will give your viewers a secret intelligence trick, super secret. So I'm gonna,
tell everyone.
It's super secret. But like, if you're claiming success in Ukraine, right, and you're like, oh, we're shooting down Buk missile launchers or enemy drones or whatever, and we're saturated, inundated within the Ukrainian ecosystem, and I go to Telegram and look at the Russian channels of Telegram that are related to unmanned systems, you better be in there. And you not only you better be in there, but the Russians better have a picture of your crashed drone somewhere, because that is testament then that you are operational in Ukraine or in Russia, I guess, if they go long range strike. And that is almost like a not self-promotion, but a promotional testament to your effectiveness. And it's like all drones get shot down. So let's just say you're not super stealthy and the Russians haven't got you, and like, that's total garbage. But if the Russians are talking about you because they found you in a field in Russia, that's a testament to your effectiveness. And so I look at that first. And so if the only thing the Russians or the Ukrainians are doing in Telegram is showing your slick sheets and your PR stuff, then you're probably not really in Ukraine. So, yeah. Think about it. Think about it for a second. Mm-hmm. I was looking at this Wild Hornet Sting interceptor drone, and there's so much real video of that thing that you said, how do I find these things? Well, when you start seeing real video, I saw today somebody sent me a pitch deck about a drone in a box, right? And all the promotional stuff was CGI. Okay, how can I effectively? And you say you're TRL 8. How do I know you're actually TRL 8 at that point in time? And so, like, having real video, having real operational tests, having third-party validation of your system is a testament to perhaps I should be looking at it.
And I see you, and to be honest, I know that's exactly, you say what you say, because on LinkedIn, I've seen you call people out on that. They'll use CGI videos, etc., and you'll go, "Can we see the real thing?" And I see you call the people out on that to say that, yeah, so yeah, I can verify that myself.
And like, I won't name the company, but there's a company out there, and they were using high-powered microwave, right? So we said, oh, we successfully shot down 50 of 51 drones. Okay, all right. And then it's a huge LinkedIn post, 4 paragraphs long. And at the bottom, on August, early August of this year, they said, video coming soon. Okay. Well, wouldn't I do the video first, right? Because people are going to question this. So extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. It's an old saying. I didn't make that up. Carl Sagan said that. And so, okay, where's the evidence? And it said, oh, video coming soon, video coming soon, video coming soon. 2 months later, the video comes, and it's a bunch of drones not moving over the high-powered microwave, right? And so they're just hovering, and the high-powered microwave affects them, I guess, and they all fall to the ground. Wonderful. And so my equivalency was boiling eggs, right? So if I put a bunch of 50 eggs in a pot, right, I have to have that pot right over the stove to boil the eggs. The second I move it off the pot, it doesn't cook. Off the stove, right off the burner, it doesn't cook. You just demonstrated that with a high-powered microwave, right?
Agreed.
So you had to have the drone stationary to show the effectiveness of these of your system. But I'm going to give you news flash to all your viewers out there. Drones don't stay stationary; they move. And so, is that really an effective test or not? So, I go back to this. I'd be happy to test it for you.
Yeah,
I know some great Ukrainian pilots that'd be happy to run at 180 kilometers an hour at 3 meters off the ground to test whether your HPM works or not. You can come here to Estonia, we'll do it for you, right? Like that's, and if a third party validates you, isn't that so much better than your PR department validating you?
Exactly.
You know why people don't do it? Because they're going to fail, right? They're going to fail, and they're cash grabbing. I'm not saying this company's cash grabbing, but like they're trying to get something out there. They're trying to claim the space of counter UAS, mine, right? Because we shot down 50 drones. Give us more money, we'll fix the problem. So fake it till you make it, right? It's a very, in a lot of verticals in VC land, the founders fake it till they actually make it. Well, when you do that in counter UAS world, people die. So stop doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
And I will continue to rail against these companies. I just saw one the other day. They had a battle tested sign, and they said used by every mechanized brigade in Ukraine. Really? Not one drone is used by every mechanized brigade in Ukraine. But your moronic PR guys decided to put that out there.
And I think that's important because I'm the same, obviously, from different perspectives. I run an investment group, and when we're talking about stocks and stuff, people only ever talk about the good. It's important you have people that aren't yes men that talk about the bad and call stuff out, because if you've just got a bunch of yes men, like you say in your field, people die. So you've got to have them people that call out the bullshit and say
exactly. And to go into your world a little bit, the finances in itself will fix itself. If you really understood the assignment, the money will come.
Yeah, 100%.
And the customers will come. The biggest difference in sort of the finance world or just in the defense world, if I was a aircraft manufacturer, if I was Lockheed Martin or Airbus or whatever, or BAE Systems, I don't even know if they make aircraft, but like, and I was building a F-35 variant of the F-35, this 6th generation strike aircraft, right? And I go to the militaries around the world. The militaries around the world can effectively talk to me about this fighter aircraft. You know why? Because the militaries around the world have pilots and they have planes. They understand what their threat conditions are. They understand what their threat is. They understand how to use the aircraft in their particular area, right? So the Netherlands uses F-35 different than, say, United Kingdom, different than, say, Estonia. Estonia doesn't have F-35s, but like if they did. So we can have an educated discussion about aircraft. Okay, remove aircraft, put in Group 1 drones. Can we have that same discussion? Or is the person that's financing these operations, do they kind of have to explain to the customer or client why they need this, right?
Yeah,
And I think it's the latter. I think you have to go and explain. So you're building this, you're advocating, and you're building this ecosystem of drones while you're selling them, and so you're literally selling a building that's under construction, right?
literally.
Just imagine it, right? Like, or a building that's that you haven't really figured out the top floors and you've only figured out the base floors, right? And you say, just trust me, once it's done, you're going to want this. Like, that to me is a daunting task.
And I think that goes hand in hand with this next question, which is, from your experience, what's the key to building trust and a good relationship between private innovators and government clients? And I guess this is sort of the same aspect. You've obviously
Don't
got to
sell bullshit.
Yeah, just build trust.
Like, be the third party adjudicator while you sell, right? Like, if your systems are horrible, fix them. If you're not keeping up with TTPs, fix it. If you want to understand the latest innovation going on in the battles around the world, go to them, right? Ukraine will let you in. Maybe Israel will let you in as well. I don't know. I think there's a ceasefire there now. So, but Nagorno-Karabakh, I don't know if they'd let you in there either. There's Burma, right? And they're fighting with drones. There's South Sudan, they're fighting with drones. So learn about it. If you can't go there, then buy third-party subscription services that tell you what is going on in there. So before you go out and you make this $93,000 tactical drone, maybe you should understand why are you making this $93,000 tactical drone? And people don't do it. They don't. They're like, if your drone looks like a helicopter and the only thing missing is the pilot, maybe you didn't really understand the assignment.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's understanding the market, and like you say, if you're just building something because you're trying to then attack the market, you've got to sort of know what market you're working in before you even start working towards it.
And by the way, it's not a static target, right? So you're developing these requirements to build a product. Look, I get that, but it's a moving target. While you're developing these requirements, your threat is moving around, and it's evolving as you speak. And so think about the guys that built these drone RF disruptor guns. I'm sure you've seen photos of these things, big guns, right? And they shoot at the drone, and they disrupt the RF signal between the drone and the pilot. Well, what happens if the RF signal doesn't exist in the first place? I don't know, say fiber optic drone. You can press that button all you want on that gun. It's not going to do anything, right? And so, and let's say you're a VC that invested $10 million into these drone guns. What do? You bury your head in the sand because you have a failed investment? Or do you say, do you recalculate and say, well, most drones still have the RF link and this works against most drones, and then you hide the fact that it doesn't work against 20% of the drones out there? What do you do, right? So I don't know. Like that's a tough decision because you're a moron, because you did not anticipate the fact that fiber optic drones were coming down the line, and you shouldn't have invested in the RF drone disruptor gun in the first place. And if you think that fiber optics appeared overnight, then you were not paying attention. So that's
agreed.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a little bit of education, a little bit of homework would prevent a really bad investment.
It's like you just said, though, it's where the due diligence comes in play, where you've got to, like you say, if you can't get to certain places, you've got to find a way of seeing what's going on. You've got to make sure you're doing your homework. And if you do all your homework, you don't get stuck in this type of situation, do you?
Correct. That's right.
With so many nations now accelerating their drone and defense tech programs, how important do you think public/private collaborations will be in keeping innovation both secure and competitive?
Well, I mean, so public like institutions, like governments, they have huge, if they're able to capitalize their retirement funds and state budgets or government budgets and put that towards innovation and technology, it makes ONDAS Capital's $150 million look like lunch money, because they can bring billions of dollars to market capitalization, and they can be a really strategic ally in change. But like what I would say is, be careful how you invest that money. Be careful how you do it, because you can, this is why doesn't Lockheed Martin have a Group 1 drone? They have all the money in the world. So why don't they have one? I don't just think about that for a second. Mm-hmm. And so perhaps just throwing a bunch of money at it is not the solution. And so be wise with your investments. Perhaps you use strategic advisors like ONDAS Capital. That's a shameless plug for us. If you're like, so, okay, well, maybe we should team with people that know what they're doing, and you utilize the expertise that we have all over Europe and the United States to give you that strategic advice, to understand what technologies, what investments you should invest in. And so I am shameless plugging on this capital a little bit, but we don't.
You got it, man.
We don't just because we don't invest in you doesn't mean you can't hire the service, the strategic advisory service. You say, let's say you're Ukrospec, right? Ukrospec is a big Ukrainian company who just signed a $200 million deal to build a factory in Manchester, somewhere in the United Kingdom, right? So if they're looking for, Ukrospec's a big company, they kind of get it. But if they were looking for additional, how do we make inroads into government? How do we make inroads? How do we understand the strategic landscape that is the United Kingdom or European Union? Maybe they don't have that expertise, and maybe we do. And so let's protect your investment a little bit in $200 million, and hire the right people to give you sort of the forecast of who's looking for drones, where do we see ourselves in 5 to 7 years, where does the drone landscape look like commercially, government, and military in those years, what's the emerging markets. None of these guys know that stuff. They just like to announce big deals, right? Oh, we're going to build this drone factory. Well, hopefully when you build it, a lot of people will start to buy from you. But I don't look at it that way. I also don't sit back and wait for someone else to develop the ecosystem. We are, advocating for that ecosystem as we build it, right? We're building the building and selling it at the same time. So,
yeah, and
we don't know how it's going to look at the end of it. That's my advice, right? That's
definitely.
Understand. I hate to use the word public-private partnerships. Mm-hmm. We're going to do a partnership. Oh, great! It's too many people. It's too heavy. It's going to fall over. We're going to have lots of meetings with lots of flags on the table. It's not going to work. Just be streamlined. Effectively, your money managers should be giving the money to the right people that understand what is going on in the world. They shouldn't be just, going to trade shows and be whoa, it looks like a helicopter. I'm going to go buy it. You're going to fail spectacularly if you do that.
No, I totally agree. And these trade shows you keep mentioning as well, they look. There's some of the tech there that you do see for the videos looks incredible. I'm going to try and next year, if there's any in Britain, I'm going to try and get one out of you and Eric. Going to get a special pass.
You know what I like to do is people that are new to the drone ecosystem. They can sign up for my tour, which is what's wrong with the drone ecosystem, and free of charge. I'll take you around, say the big show in London is DSEI, right? Mm-hmm. It's once every 2 years, I think. And there's other ones, MSPO in Poland, there's Saudi, there's United Arab Emirates, there's Abu Dhabi, IDEX. And I will go around to each of the people selling their drones and tell you what's wrong with it.
I like the idea of that.
Because I want to educate you, and I know a lot of the Estonian companies that are in this space. And, the Estonians always have a booth wherever you're going. They have Estonian government sponsors a booth, and they have 20 companies. And they have a little coffee nook inside of it that you can hide from it. And we go in there and we bust on all the other companies that are they're like, did you see that drone? What a fake PRBS that was. And I was like, I wish I could like capture this and put all this in a bottle, right? And like what your skepticism on these drone programs, which is spot on, by the way. It's not like they're just making stuff up. And it's like, if you then go back year after year after year to the same shows, what is it, a new drone? Like what happened to that thing you had last year? Is it still around?
Year, yeah.
Right? What happened to it? And about 95% of them just go away.
Which says a lot, doesn't it? Lately, we've been seeing more and more reports of the airports being shut down due to drones entering restricted airspace. To me, that seems like a huge and growing problem, and we're seeing it near enough every day nowadays. In your opinion, what's the best way to tackle this kind of threat going forward? Obviously, we know you've got counter UAS, and I know you touched on about having the instincts, but it's becoming more and more of a frequent thing, isn't it?
So again, I'll do shameless plugs here a little bit, and I already mentioned what I think is fundamental to counter UAS, which is education, right? And so not to pick on Denmark or anybody, to be like, oh, there's drone sightings over Copenhagen Airport. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Do you understand what the drones are? And what's my evidence that that these drones actually exist, right? What is it? And is it who's telling you what? Who is giving you that third-party validation that you have a drone problem? That's enemy drones, right? And so let me give you a great example of current events. And again, this is a common occurrence. This is not. There's nothing wrong with the Danish government in their approach to this. Like it's just. But this happens all the time. And I think I saw this the other day by the Copenhagen police or national police, whatever it was. And they said, we're dealing with a sophisticated user. And so, right. So why did they say that? Is it because the drones are doing acrobatic maneuvers in the sky and you can't really detect them? Or is it because you don't know where the drone is being launched and recovered from? And so you automatically assume it's some sort of super secret intelligence activity. That is the reason that you're not seeing the hide site or the launch and recovery points. That is the reason. But perhaps you consider, and then they extrapolate that to maybe it's a boat offshore 50 kilometers that is recovering. Have you ever tried to recover a drone from a boat? It's really hard. Somebody's going to see it and take their camera out and film it. So what they do, because they haven't seen it, is they attribute it to the threat, right? The threat is sophisticated threat. Therefore, the only sophisticated threat that we know of is the Russian Federation. Okay, that's certainly possible. Or maybe I could suggest another solution or observation. Maybe the drones you're seeing aren't drones, right? Maybe you think they're drones, but they're not. And so you're kind of seeing UFOs or ghosts. And heaven forbid, maybe you're seeing Istanbul to Newark, an Airbus 320 coming out of Turkey, right? And I'm not saying that as a joke. I'm saying this as when I was doing one of these investigations, and they said, look, the drone's right there with green and blue lights on it. And I took my Flight Radar 24 that has an app that you can hold it up. And I said, nope, that's Istanbul to Newark. Right. And the guy is a colonel. And the guy's like, you could just see the blood run out of his face. Like, oh, my God. And so the power of suggestion is really, really formidable. And so if I say you have a drone problem, right, you'll start looking for drones. If I say you're under surveillance, go back to my CIA thing. If I say the Russians are following you around or some hostile actor, you in your mind, you will start seeing everybody on the street as following you. And you have no way to independently verify whether you're being followed or not. So if you have no way to independently validate if you have a drone problem or not, then you have a drone problem.
Correct.
And so what's the solution? It's not $20 million worth of counter UAS equipment. it's that feeling that I talked about. It's establishing a baseline of what are we actually looking at here. And then the other one that I would say is in that regard too is so what happens is you see a threat, right? So there it is right there. And the person seeing it can't affect it, right? They don't know how. They don't have a drone with them. They don't have a counter UAS equipment. So maybe you give the counter UAS equipment to the guy that sees the drone. So like, maybe that's the drone gun if the drone guns work. Maybe that's a drone with a net, right? If you're in a congested area such as an airport, right? Maybe that's an interceptor drone that I've taught the person, the first responder, to be able to interdict the drone. Because there are really great people, including this guy from Interpol I saw the other day, that can go and do the forensics on that drone and tell you exactly where it came from, right? And until you have that, you don't really know what you're doing. And I'll leave it to your viewers, right? You show me one captured Russian drone, and then I'll take all that stuff back.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Not only in the Netherlands, anywhere that we've had these drone issues, right? Isn't it kind of fantastical? Right? Go back to Carl Sagan again. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So where's the evidence?
Where's the evidence? Yeah.
Where is it? Like, and you can call me. I will fly out to your country. We will red team it for you. We will simulate. The one thing you can do is you can say, well, we think the drones are doing this, right? And then I will get the best operators in the world to come and simulate it for you. And now you can calibrate all these sensors that you paid so much money for, and you can understand what you may be seeing, right? That's easy, costs less than $1 million. Okay, it's not free, but it costs some money. And you can then say, it couldn't be Russian drones, could it? So I just leave it. You want a red team?
That definitely makes sense to think about it, like you say, extraordinary claims and stuff. You've operated all over the world, the US, Europe, and beyond. From your perspective, which regions or ecosystems are showing the most exciting growth right now in the defense innovation, i.e., drones, everything else?
Yeah, of course, where I'm sitting, where I'm near, I clearly have to say Ukraine. What I've seen, the ingenuity coming out of Ukrainians is tremendous. It's just absolutely the simplicity, a lot of bad things about the Soviet Union. I'll give you that, right? Communism, probably not so good for the world. But the concentration on STEM skills and the mathematics and the physics and the science in places like Kharkiv University or Kiev Polytechnical Institute is phenomenal, right? And I think that is a holdover of the Soviet system that the Ukrainians have just continued. It shows when they're designing these systems, right? It shows. They're novel, they're unique, they're cost effective. They have everything that you think you would want within a drone ecosystem. Now, like my Soviet analogy here applies both ways. The Russian Federation also has learned those lessons. And so they have very novel approaches to drones. Now they have more legacy systems. You can see them every day. Again, go to Telegram and you can see SuperCam, Orlan, Landsat, what all these drones that they have. But never underestimate your enemy. They are learning just like Ukrainians are learning. And so the novelty, right? They understood the assignment as well. And then because China is helping them, China is getting lessons learned. Actually, China is on both sides of it, right? DJI Mavic is everywhere in Ukraine. And so they are learning, Chinese are learning. Do not underestimate Chinese. I don't think anybody does, but like don't underestimate them as well in terms of what they're learning. And then I would say from internal operations, this is all external. Internal operations, never underestimate the Israelis. Israelis are operating unmanned systems in tunnels. And that is quite formidable. And so that's another area you should be looking at.
No, I appreciate that. And as technology advances, do you think human decision making will always have a role in defense, or are we heading towards greater automation?
Science fiction, right? Like so. Uh, you know, I'll give you another analogy with my counter UAS guys too. Like there's counter UAS kill chain, right? There's whole kill chain, right? Which is detect, classify, command and control, effect, battle damage assessment, right? Effect, which means engage, right? So you're going to engage something. So like in theory, this entire system could be automated, right? But that's that whole effect thing. Let me go back to effect. What does effect mean? It means shoot at. It means whatever. And so if you have an automated system, it's going to shoot at whatever you're detecting and classifying by itself because it has made the determination that we need to take this thing down. Right? But are you sure this thing that you're about to take down is not an Airbus A320? Are you 100? Are you willing to bet the future of your country on that? Right? And until a government says, yes, I am, then that human will, they might not be in the loop, they're going to be on the loop. Sorry, this fancy jargon, right? They're going to be they're going to be monitoring this kill chain for counter UAS, but they're the ones that have to make the call to shoot or don't shoot. It will never be left to a machine. And by the way, by the international rules of engagement for war, believe it or not, war has rules, right? That a human has to make the decision.
Yeah,
a machine cannot make the decision for you.
It makes sense though, anyway, to have that because, like you've just said, what happens if one day it distinguishes a plane and takes down a plane with 300 people on it? It's going to be a different story, isn't it?
Yeah,
without
but there are scenarios where everything in your neighborhood is hostile. So let me give you a great example. At night, on the outskirts of Kiev in Ukraine, in the midst of hundreds of Russian drones coming in, do you really need the human in the loop? Or is anything in the sky classified as a hostile actor?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like, so I would say the latter. I'd say anything flying at this point in time is hostile. Therefore, we can kill it. And now that would be fully automated. We don't need a human because a human has already made the distinction that everything in this AOR is hostile.
No, I think that's that answer's spot on, I guess. Without diving into specifics, have you already started putting some things in motion with your current projects, or is it more of a late Q4, early next year rollout? When it comes to updates, do you plan on sharing like performance and investment progress publicly, or what information stays internal, like the investments, etc., on about ONDAS Capital, of course?
So we've already started. I mean, obviously, this is why my hair is grayer because we've already started, right? Like so. And I think I don't think I know this was said publicly that 150 million is 2 years. 2 years. So let me give you some equivalency there. When somebody says they have a $500 million investment fund, like a VC says that, what is that? That's actually 3 to 5 years. Okay. And so our equivalency is 500 million, right? So the rate that you deploy capital is similar to a $500 million VC fund. That's difficult. And so you want to invest smartly, right? But you also, as the world is changing, you want to get some investments out there. And so I think we have a goal to do the first investments in the fourth quarter of 25, right? Which then makes my hair grayer. So luckily, I've been looking at these prospective companies for 3 years. I know them, right? I know the ownership. I know the people. And so it's like a band that's, a musical band, and they have their first album, and it's great because they've been thinking of the songs their entire lives. But then their second album sucks. Like this is like, for me, I feel like the first investments would be really good. I've been looking at it forever, and I know who are my favorites, who aren't. But then perhaps we take all the good ones and then make it more difficult in the second round to go and find those companies. Right? I don't know. It's I feel like we'll do fine either way, but that's why we have good advisors and other people that can help I definitely know the bullshit out there, so steer away from that. And then, by the way, for anybody that's listening to you or watching you, if you're an American company that's in the United States, don't come to me. I don't we're European based, we are Ukrainian or Ukrainian inspired. Now, there's a bigger company called ONDAS Holdings. You can go to them. They're looking for worldwide stuff, but we have a very specific mandate. And I just, the drone in a box guys that were reaching out to me the other day. I said, how is this Ukrainian inspired? And I mean it. It's not some tagline here. It's what did you learn? Did you learn something from Ukraine? Now, I haven't seen their answer, but I'd love to see it. I'd love to understand what it is. My guess is just by looking at it, it looks like 2022 technology. My guess is there's no lesson learned from Ukraine. And it may be a great investment, but it's just not for me then. For us, not me. It's not my money, but it's just not. It may be great, but I just don't. I don't have a feeling about it. I don't you ask me how I invest. It's instinct, you do the due diligence, you murder it, right? That's really important. Remember I said we have this whole Baltic Ghost Wing thing here in Estonia. What is Baltic Ghost Wing? It's a training place, but it also is a polygon. It's 50 square kilometers. It's near Russian border. And so if you really are claiming great things, why don't you come and test it? Not only can you come and test it, if we like you as a portfolio company, we will pay you to come and test it, because that's the ultimate validation. And by the way, I don't need to simulate Russian GPS spoofing or electronic warfare. The Russian Federation gives it to me free of charge on the border, right? They so you real life situation out there, and Estonian government's losing drones out there all the time. If you can operate in that area and you pass that, then we'll seriously consider funding you. I mean, come and prove it. Come and prove it, and don't give me a common U.S. excuse is ITAR, right? Restrictions on technology transfer. Okay, that's great. I get it. There's also ITAR waivers that you can get, but I'm not even looking at the American company. If you're it's proprietary, it's classified. Bro, classified. I lived in the world of classification for so many years. I get it, but you still have to be able to show it. And by the way, there's nothing super secret in this drone world. The only thing really super secret would be when you're making stealth drones, you're making lower radar cross section. I think that would be classified. But short of that, all this stuff is free game. So come and show it to us. If you have a simulator, show us a simulator. If you have AI or ML, machine learning, come and show it to us. And by the way, I'm not going to be judging it. I'm going to take 15 frontline operators from Ukraine. They'll judge it.
But I think that's important. And I think this is why everyone's excited for you to be at the forefront of it, because people are going to see it from this video, but they can also see from your personality online. You don't take no shit. You ain't going to be investing in no
well, shit. I mean, I remember I said I worked for DARPA for many years, and they had Tony Tether was the director at the time, and he wanted 95% of the investments that DARPA made to fail, right? Which would be horrible for VC. Be horrible. You'd never have any limited partners. But the reason they wanted 95% of them to fail is so the 5% became extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. So weird, like you say, yeah. It's a weird, like you say, it's one of them really, but people that have got to come and test it at your facility and it's right on the border, it's a solid thing for them to validate themselves, isn't it?
Yep, I agree. So
just a couple conclusion questions before we finish. If you could go back and speak to 20-year-old James Acuna, what life and work advice would you give yourself and why?
It's it's just life is like a bunch of different experiences, and And it's your ability to then take on a new role is based on all these other experiences you have. And government service and providing, being in the military or working for intelligence agencies or whatever, working for government agencies in general is really an important part of it. But like, would you spend your whole career doing that? I think that's like, so 20 years, right? I did combined between CIA and other, US government things, like 30 years. And like, I see entrepreneurs that are flipping around all the time. There has to be a happy medium in there somewhere. Maybe 10 years working for CIA. But again, or the government is going to give you a pension. They're going to give you healthcare. They're going to do all these things, which then, dictates that you have to work a minimum of 20 years. Maybe that's not the right answer, right? Like maybe that's a lot of time, and life is short, right? And so you have to go and do a bunch of things. And I wish I would have done other things within that time.
No, I think that's fair enough. And look, say it's always, because we have a lot of young people watching. We have the audience is broad, so it's always good. When you look at the next decade of defense innovation, what do you hope your biggest personal contribution will be? Your stamp, I guess.
That we were successful in building the bridge to bring Ukrainian technology to the West.
I think that was spot on with the answer. Right. So the last question, sorry. Obviously, I sent these out before. When I spoke to Eric, I asked him, because everybody loves to read in the group and stuff. Eric gave me a fantastic book to read, and Knowledge is Power. If there's one book you could recommend, what would it be? This was the one that Eric recommended to me, so I'll pick that one up.
So there's a book, and I've read it over and over and over again. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to the methods of some of this, and it's similar, but I think it's called The 48 Rules of Power. And they have some really, there you go, right? Yeah. I started reading that in like 2003, I would say.
Amazing book. Amazing.
Yeah. And they give these examples and they're relevant, but a lot of times they're ruthless as well. Mm-hmm. And so I would say that, and then a very old book, Sun Tzu, Art of War. And if you really understand that and you play by those rules, then you understand how humans operate. And I think you would be more successful in, being able to look at investments, predicting the future. Because what John Paul Jones said in the U.S., back in the Revolutionary War, those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. And so you just apply that however you'd like to drone ecosystem, to whatever. If you don't remember what happened, you're just going to make the same mistakes again. And so, when I started to learn Russian language and I went to all these Russian-speaking countries, I bought every book on Russian intelligence, and I learned who the enemy was. Starting in 1917, during the revolution, which became Soviet Union, because I wanted to learn the threat from the threat side, and I became like a fanatical person on Russian intelligence services, and I think that's the dedication you need to understanding this technology as well, this unmanned space.
No, fantastic. And James, I'd just like to say, I want to say thank you again for taking your time today, and I really appreciate the fact that obviously you accepted it when I reached out to do this, so thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. I hope you guys get something out of it, and I just would want to say, I'm optimistic on the drone ecosystem. I might sound pessimistic, but it's been burned into me over these years. But I have hope that it will be successful. Right. Everybody, I look out my window one day and see delivery drones delivering a hamburger to some hungover person or whatever, right? I have hope that this is really what's coming.
Yeah, of course. And like I say, I know people look at drones a lot for war and stuff like that, but the case base of what drones and the market that it can be attained to is huge. The TAM is crazy on it.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah. Thank you, James.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was fun.
Thank you very much, mate.